Hello viewers, this is your weekly State of Affairs coming to you live from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue, and my name is Aliou Cisse. Well, it was a dream and it became a reality, and now rated as one of the best summits ever hosted in the history of the OIC since its formation in 1969. I mean, over the weekend, Banjul was the capital of Islam, as you know, delegates from across the 57 member states of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation, OIC, and observer nations gathered in Banjul for the 15th OIC summit here in Banjul under the theme Ensuring Unity and Solidarity through Dialogue for Sustainable Development. And during the summit, we saw President Barrow of the Gambia being handed the mantle of leadership as chairman of the OIC for the next 3 years. And joining me this week to discuss, the success of the summit, what can we learn as far as the summit is concerned, and what does it mean for the future of the country? I'm joined on the program by Dr. Ismaila Cisse, the Gambia's Information Minister. Dr. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
And also on the program, we are joined by Ambassador Yankuba Diba, who is the CEO of the OIC Gambia Secretariat. Ambassador, good to have you on the program once again.
Thank you very much, Cisse. Delighted to be here.
Thank you so much. Doctor, I will start with you. What are your key takeaways from the summit?
Well, quite a few. First of all, I'd like to extend my greetings to all your viewers, both in the Gambia and in diaspora. Also take the opportunity to extend our heartfelt gratitude and to His Excellency the President, and to congratulate him for assuming the role of the chair of OIC, of making up 57 states and a population of over almost 2 billion people. Now, the key takeaways are here. I can divide them into two. One is the organization itself, and two is the outcome of the summit. Now, when it comes to the organization, it shows that small countries can make a big difference. It was a very successful summit, well planned. It's been 5 years, yes, but many people had given up. But through the OIC Secretariat, which I would also like to extend our gratitude for them doing a fantastic job, they delivered every aspect of it, from protocol to security to food to accommodation to the vehicles. Everything went well. When it comes to the outcome, and for the very rare for you to get 57 member states to agree on a declaration without any controversies, very difficult, because remember, it's a vast organization composing of countries from the MENA, Middle Eastern and Northern African countries, but also Africa, but also the Far East. If you look at the governments that are composed of the OIC, you have monarchs, you have some autocracies, you have some democracies. Their national interests are different, their foreign policies are different. However, in Banjul, they were able to agree with consensus, without any issues, without any controversies, on a declaration that came out at the end of the summit. And that is my key takeaway. For me, that is the success. That is how you measure a success of such a summit. Not the heads of state that are there, not the cars, not the vehicles, the outcome of it. Having all these 57 countries, that shows how President Barrow has become now a very savvy diplomat, in being able to deal with each and every head of state, each and every country, having its own diverse interest on issues, having them to agree on a declaration without any issues. For me, that is my key takeaway.
I know the control room will show some of those B-rolls from the summit itself. Ambassador, before your key takeaways, have you had the time to sit back and reflect on the long journey to the summit?
Thank you very much. It has been a long, onerous journey. However, I've always believed that we can pull it off. For few reasons. Number one, I believe in the capacity of my office and staff, even though we are skeletal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had the power of state behind us. And one thing that had never wavered was the political will, was the determination of President Barrow to ensure that we achieve our goal. But before going further, I would like to associate myself with the earlier sentiments expressed by Dr. Cisse, to congratulate him hugely for being the next chairman of the OIC, for the next 3 years. This would be the second time in sub-Saharan Africa that the OIC is being hosted.
After Senegal.
After Senegal. And we have hosted it in spectacular fashion. As the doctor said, I think the achievements are there for anybody to see. They are colossal. President Barrow has always been there. And just to reiterate what Doctor said again, he says, it is our belief that small countries can do big things. They can achieve big things. And 2 days ago, that statement has now been confirmed to the entire world. And Doctor reiterated also one aspect which most people fail to see if they are judging the outcome of summits. When you determine how successful or otherwise a summit is, it is not by the number of beautiful cars, but it's by the quality and the kinds of declarations and resolutions that they have achieved. And the kind of consensus that was achieved in the Gambia is unprecedented. And I think, as he rightly said, that boils down to the quality of leader that we have. And it also portends a very hopeful future for the Ummah. Since we started to even coin the theme of this summit, we have had consensus across the board, right through Asia to Africa to all parts of the world. And it's our conviction that we as a small nation, but being in the driving seat, we want to chart a new way for the OIC. And I believe this is something that work starts to be, we start work on that immediately this week to make sure President Barrow comfortably steers the affairs of the OIC, so that it becomes a win-win situation for all nations, be it the richer ones or the poorer ones.
Interesting. And Doctor, what does hosting such an event mean for the Gambia's image internationally?
It means a great deal, diplomatically speaking. And like I said earlier on, remember, Gambia will be providing strategic leadership through His Excellency the President to the OIC. It means that now, going forward for the next 3 years, the President of the Gambia assumes leadership of the OIC. Any issues, emergencies, humanitarian catastrophes, wars, peace talks, he leads it within the OIC, and they look up to him for leadership. That alone is grandstanding diplomatically for the Gambia. Gambia will be on the world map. People are going to talk about Gambia. People are going to look to Gambia for leadership on issues within the OIC, issues as diverse as humanitarian issues, peace issues, women's issues, children's issues, family issues, Islamophobia, science issues, you name it. Now, that is what it means for Gambia. It means now we take the lead. When something happens within the OIC bloc, people look to President Barrow for leadership, for strategic leadership. I think that is very, very important for Gambia diplomatically.
And you think the President is ready for the challenge ahead?
He is ready. In fact, he has started. He's more than ready. Remember, most of the key issues, or the most contentious issue, or one of the top priorities within the bloc is the issue of peace, especially peace in Palestine. In fact, that is the prerequisite for forming, in fact, the OIC in 1969. And the President recently has been given an award as the most peaceful president. I think he's going to project that peace and inject it within the OIC. It's not going to be an easy task. Remember, Saudi Arabia's interest is different from Qatar's interest. Yeah. And these are all great powers. How do you deal with, how do you reconcile what Saudi Arabia wants, what Qatar wants? We know the issues there. How do you reconcile what Lebanon wants, what Turkey wants, for example? And these are all seasoned presidents amassing over a huge fortune in terms of their GDP, of a big population. These are great powers, or aspiring great powers. How does a small country like the Gambia, having a president, deal with, reconcile all these different diverging interests? It needs a savvy diplomat to be able to do that. I think President Barrow has that capability, and he can do it.
Ambassador, I know many will be saying not all the presidents come. So there's no summit where you have all the leaders travel to attend the summit, but the representation was overwhelming. We saw the president of Guinea-Bissau was in attendance, of course, Sierra Leone, Mauritania, and Senegal. The neighbors from within our sub-region here. What was this tell?
Well, as I said, summits of this nature are based on membership. And of course, if you look at the attendance, there's 100% attendance by the 57 countries. Apart from that, if you put together the VVIPs and VIPs, heads of state and heads of government, you have obviously almost 40%, 40 such leaders present. And I think you should also understand that President Barrow attended the last summit, I think it was in November or December in Saudi Arabia. Yes, because there was an emergency summit which he attended. Again, heads of states are not always available. And we've seen even in Saudi Arabia, where we had the summit, the 14th summit, where Saudi Arabia sends out aircrafts to even leaders to attend. Only 25 leaders were present. So what we would like to make people understand is, as Doctor said, is the quality of discussions, is the consensus that leaders come with, is the quality of communiques that they come up with. And one big takeaway that I think as a country I'm proud of is that, quite contrary to what people think, that Gambia got monies from the Gulf to be able to do this. No, we are starting on a very sound footing, on a very strong footing, with a country with integrity, a country that has demonstrated that it can stand on its own. Apart from all the infrastructural things that we have done, which of course were concessional loans, I would like to say Gambia government actually bankrolled this entire summit, event planning and everything, including accommodations, logistics and everything, without having to rely on an outside country. So that puts our president in a very, very, very sound footing.
But you did receive support from other countries?
Of course. Yeah. That's natural. You have bilateral support. But 90% of all the investments that went into making this successful is from our national budget. So President Barrow has insisted always that, come what may, this is a Gambian project, all hands on deck, and Gambia will make sure we provide the wherewithal to make sure this is possible. And that's exactly what has. So for me, as part of the team, we are starting on a very high note. We are starting as equals to bigger countries who may have some geopolitical clout, who may have some, they are more endowed in terms of resources. But we, as a small nation, sitting in that driving seat, can look up to any challenge, that may come across, because we know we have done it. We believe in Gambians, and Gambians did it. So the way is really, really encouraging.
And Doctor, there was that manifestation of good neighborliness. The reason why I mentioned the presidents who were here, of course, Bissau, Sierra Leone, Senegal, Mauritania, they all came. That good neighborliness was really manifested in this summit. Of course. When your neighbor calls, you respond.
Of course. I think it was demonstrated with the goodwill from Senegal. As you saw, Jamai Faye came, even though he was here 2 weeks ago, he came. Yeah. Mauritania came, Guinea-Bissau came, Sierra Leone came. That is what good neighborliness is about.
Cote
d'Ivoire came. So it was a great event, and like CEO Yankuba said, the success of an OIC event is not measured by the number of leaders, presidents that came. It is measured by the content and the substance of the declarations that come from it. And I think in this case, like I said, it happened at a very, very difficult time when countries are in turmoil, when Sudan is breaking apart, when we are trying to bring about immediate ceasefire in Palestine, when Yemen is having issues, when Lebanon is having issues, when Somalia is having issues, when Sudan is having issues. In a world that is fast changing, that is dynamic, where every country now is focusing on its national interest. And I think that is good for the Gambia, because now we'll take the lead. And we've even started taking the lead, because under His Excellency the President, the Gambia said what is happening in Myanmar against the Rohingyas is tantamount to genocide. We invoked the Genocide Convention. We took the Myanmar government to court and to the International Court of Justice, and the Gambia won. Gambia showed leadership there. So one of the things that Gambia is going to focus on now is that attacks against Muslims. And even if one of the declarations is that they talked about how minority Muslims in India are being treated and how that should stop, urging all governments around the world to do everything possible to make sure that Muslim minorities living within their jurisdiction are protected. And remember, OIC is composed of 57 countries. And there are two key criteria. One is that you are an Islamic state, or the majority of your population are Muslim. But we've seen how, in fact, it is so important, the issue of the Ummah is so important that countries that are not part of that don't fulfill these two criteria are either observers in the OIC or have sent special envoys to the OIC.
Because there are millions of Muslims
of
in
course, America has a special envoy. China has an observer status, I think. The AU, composing of 54 African countries, has an observer status within.
So Mohammed came.
He came. Yeah. So it means that the OIC itself is a global institution dealing with issues that are quite global, and I think the president is now having that task of dealing with these issues that puts him on the spotlight, that puts Gambia on the spotlight, and I have no doubt that he has what it takes to make sure that he delivers.
Well, viewers, you're watching your weekly State of Affairs program here on QTV. Like you heard from Dr. and Ambassador Diba, I mean, President Barrow is now the chair of the OIC for the next 3 years. I mean, OIC is the second largest intergovernmental organization after the UN. And then we'll just go with actually, he delivered a statement at the opening ceremony, and let's take a listen to what the chairman had to say. That's President Barrow.
Urging all governments around the world to do everything possible to make sure that Muslim minorities living within their jurisdiction are protected. And remember, OIC is composed of calamities of terrorism, and there are two key criteria.
To factional violence and armed conflicts. Amid these unrests, we must reaffirm our commitment to mediation and dialogue as indispensable mechanism to resolve conflict and foster lasting peace. It is fitting, therefore, that the theme for this 15th session is enhancing unity and solidarity through dialogue and sustainable development. To maintain peace and lasting peaceful coexistence in the entire region, as leaders of the Islamic world, we must seize this opportunity to chart a new course towards peace and reconciliation. Let us recommit ourselves to the principles of justice, equality, and mutual respect. Act collectively to end the suffering of the Palestinian people and build a future of peace and prosperity for all.
Well, there you had the President of the Republic, President Adama Barrow, who is the new chair of the OIC. I mean, the mantle of the chairmanship was handed to him. Actually, Saudi Arabia was the chair, and they handed to the Gambia. Despite our size as a country, I mean, President Barrow is now the chair of the OIC. I mean, Doctor, I mean, you have heard from the President talking about, I mean, the need to, I mean, reaffirm our commitment, I mean, emphasize the need for dialogue to bring about, you know, sustainable peace and stability.
Well, as I said, we as the technical group, when we consider the theme of this summit, we took account of the prevailing circumstances. I think Doctor gave a catalogue of some of the conflicts within the Ummah. And these are major conflicts which are threatening to even tear apart, you know, the whole world. I'm not saying the Ummah alone. We've seen how this impacted the world supply chain, the shipping industry, and so on and so forth. So we thought small Gambia, and we reflected, of course, on Gambia's trajectory since in the 80s. Our founding father, Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara, was chair of the Peace Committee of the OIC. So when there was this fratricidal war between Iran and Iraq, Sir Dawda actually paved the way that brought about the rapprochement between the two warring nations. I recall also that during that same time, Sir Dawda in 1974 or something, played similar roles between India and Pakistan. So we felt peace was a rare commodity, especially nowadays. So we felt we could use peace as the agent. concretize the solidarity between different Muslim nations. And of course, as the second largest organization, OIC is not only preoccupied with, with political affairs. It has all the other goals, that mimic or that, along the lines of the Sustainable Development Goals. So we felt under the chairmanship of President Barrow, we should seek to use peace as a vehicle to enhance solidarity that would enhance sustainable development. We want to see more trade between and among members of the Ummah, because our Ummah is very well endowed. But if you consider our more endowed brothers within the Gulf and less endowed, of course, in terms of certain mineral resources, if we could actually encourage trade between those members of the Ummah, this should be a win-win situation for all member countries. We know oftentimes there's this issue of Islamophobia, there's this issue of radical Islam. Why is it that is taking root, especially in our sub-region here? It's because of poverty. It's because if you look at areas around West Africa where you have all these jihadist movements, you have deprivation, lack of jobs, lack of hope for young people is rife. So, jihadists arise from discontent, from people who lack basic things in life. So if we are able to encourage trade, we are able to encourage giving alternatives to young people other than just violence, we would soon see all these conflicts addressed. So this is why we think during our chairmanship, we should be able to now encourage, more South-South cooperation, more inward investment in these poorer regions of the Ummah, to mitigate some of the problems that we are having today.
And Doctor, 3 years is quite short. In your own opinion, what do you think should be the immediate or the short-term priority for the new chairman to be able to live behind?
Well, it's to ensure that there's an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in Gaza. Ensure humanitarian aid flows in, that he can be able to mobilize resources and goodwill across the world from world leaders to ensure that humanitarian goes in. To avoid a humanitarian catastrophe, which is impending in Gaza. To make sure there's peace in Sudan, we've seen what's happening in that country, two warring factions turning the country apart, to make sure there's immediate peace. And so also the humanitarian assistance is also provided for the people. I think that is the immediate priority now. That's on the agenda. That is why even if you listen to the OIC, the Banjul Declaration, a lot of focus has been put onto that. So I think his priority now is to make sure there is unconditional and immediate ceasefire in Gaza, that after that, work towards ensuring that Palestine becomes an independent state in fulfillment of the two-state solution, and that there's peace in Sudan, and also making sure that now all attacks against the Islamic Ummah is stopped.
And like you said, the war in Palestine, of course, Gaza, this has been ongoing for as long as you may think. But, what is that you think President Barrow could do different to bring about that lasting peace and stability you're talking about? I'm sure those before him, had done theirs, but still the war persists. What do you think the chairman can do differently to bring about a lasting peace? Ambassador?
I think we have a golden opportunity. Gambia maintains excellent relationship with nearly all the countries in the world. So as an honest broker, our credibility is very high. President Barrow can really navigate his way without the usual impediments that some leaders have. Because our foreign policy is such that we have friends with all countries. And that is our strategic national interest, that we maintain friendly relationships with all countries in the world. So that puts President Barrow in a unique position to be able to knock at any door and to be able to negotiate as an independent, honest broker. So that's one trump card we have. But on a more kind of medium to long term, within the 3 years, we as a country have plans to sit down, to discuss, look at our national priorities. Of course, we will think globally, but we act locally. We look at what are our national priorities and how they relate to the global agenda. And this is why we are thinking to create a roadmap You know, soon we will engage in that regard and come up with clear-cut strategies, goals, you know, that are achievable, that are succinct, that provide us deliverables that we can say during our presidency, these are few key areas that we want to concentrate on. And of course, we would ensure that we have the right kind of resources. We call on the right kind of stakeholders and partners to be able to achieve those goals. And of course, with peace, not everything is possible.
Okay. And with the Gambia believing in non-alignment, we know what is happening in Gaza. Israel is on the other end, Palestine is on the other end. Where will the Gambia side with? We said non-alignment. That's our foreign policy.
That's our foreign policy.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, in the Bandung conference that Sadat attended, the Gambia's position was non-alignment. And during the entire period of the Cold War, Gambia maintained a non-aligned posture. And now, like he said, Gambia's foreign policy has been known to be co-opting everyone and alienating none. We are friends with everyone, even though, yes, everybody knows what Israel is doing in Palestine. And the position, or the unequivocal position of the OIC with regards to what's happening in Palestine is manifested in the declaration. However, Gambia as the leader will make sure that, like he said, comes to the table as an independent, non-aligned leader that can broker peace between the two countries. And I think that's where we come in. Gambia's foreign policy has always been friendly, and we don't take sides that much. We are on the side of justice, on the side of peace, on the side of the people. And
Ambassador, earlier on you said 90% of the summit, you know, was bankrolled by the government, even though you admit, I mean, there was support from other partners. I mean, I would just like to know, because like you said, there were a lot of challenges. I mean, I remember interviewing you in 2019. Right. I mean, and then eventually, you know, there was a COVID-19 and everything came to an halt. How were you able to overcome all these challenges to be able to host the summit finally? It was COVID-19.
Yes.
The world
was
shut down.
Absolutely.
How were you able to maneuver to get all the resources and, you know, to be able to overcome
it was quite a difficult, like I said at the beginning, it was quite a difficult process. However, we were strategic enough to cash in on opportunities that come along our way. When COVID struck, we were just about to begin our resource mobilization drive. And then the whole world almost came to a halt. I think that period was a period that allowed us to, you know, kind of think inwards and see what alternatives can we have to depending entirely on outsiders. And this is where our whole plan B came into being. And so we set forth, you know, an aggressive policy of providing the needed resources for especially infrastructure. Because we divided our strategy into two. First part was based on providing necessary infrastructure, which were also strategically chosen to be able to at least provide a value chain of projects that would enable the Gambia, you know, address the immediate need of the OIC. But beyond that, it can become a hub for meetings, investments, and you know, conferences and so on. So having, again, we were limited by our economic condition, because when this government came to power, its borrowing capacity had been seriously hampered. So we only could go for loans that were concessional. But thank God we have been able to provide support to all those projects that we had identified. Then the second part is actually the events planning. This is at the time a lot of outside agencies, companies were approaching us, and each of them were proposing they could partner with us in terms of mobilizing needed resources. But our point of view is, let us raise resources, then we can then sort of pay you for whatever work you do. On the other hand, they've been insisting we have to pay them colossal amounts of money. If we had such money, why would we take an outside agency? So we also started reflecting, what is it here in the Gambia? What is at the Secretariat and among its partners or stakeholders we can leverage to be able to achieve the same goal? And that's precisely what we did. If you look at our events planning, you look at our brand and communication, everything is from within. So we ended up saving this country quite a lot of money, you know. So one big lesson I think we have learned from this exercise is that we should believe in ourselves. We should always look inwards before we start thinking outside. And we learned a lot that there's a lot of possibilities in this country. When we first set out to get a 5-star hotel, of course we had a joint venture which never worked, on time. We started looking at alternatives, and we discovered that Gambia has enough high-quality residences and hotels that could host even up to 5,000–6,000 delegates at any given time. So some of the reasons why we postponed was also to see how we can achieve our goals within the Gambia, but knowing very well we are a tourist destination. So when we asked for the postponement in December, a lot of people say, oh, you see, they are postponing again. But December was the peak of our tourist season. Okay, now we have well over 4,000 bed space at the end of April, May, and that's why we were able to successfully implement this. So a lot of the things we had to rethink, we had to re-strategize, and that was why we had, apart from the how is it called, the postponement due to COVID, we also had to factor in what was possible within the Gambia. And we undertook for intensive diplomatic activity to convince our other country partners, which successfully they agreed to. And now the end justifies the means. Yeah. At the end of the day, as the saying goes, all is well that ends well. Sure. I think all these delegates left yesterday, quite satisfied. They never thought small Gambia could have pulled off this in such a fashion. It's unprecedented. We were able to feed every delegate free. We were able to provide transportation. We were able to house every delegate. And all of them, had a very congenial atmosphere during which they were able to have their discussions. And a lot of other bilateral things, meetings took place. The president was at the conference center yesterday the whole day from 9:30 in the morning up to 5, 6. 6. He was there having bilaterals, with different countries and agencies. So I think this is a golden opportunity.
Well, like you said, a golden opportunity. We also saw at the opening ceremony, people from different walks of life were there. We saw politicians, former vice presidents and senior government officials all coming together to celebrate, the success of hosting this summit. And then I spoke to some of them who were there, and let's take a listen as to what they have to say regarding hosting of the summit.
Very, very proud as a Gambian to welcome the Islamic Ummah. Banjul is now the capital of the Islamic Ummah, and also to come and then look at our development agenda and also send the message. Now we'll be having the Banjul Declaration to ensure that peace is really cherished in all parts of the world, and that's the message that we want to see, so that even in Jerusalem, the Holy Land, also let peace reign there.
As a country, we should all be proud of, because it's not easy to welcome all these different delegates that have come to Gambia, and inshallah everything went on very, very nice at the opening level. Yeah.
And looking at the benefits, what do you think the Gambia could benefit going forward?
Well, there is a lot of lessons to learn from this, and there's a lot of benefits that will come. Everybody can see it by themselves, the infrastructural development that is going on. And OIC summit will be finished by tomorrow, the 5th of May, but that does not mean that that's the end of the development.
I also have Alaji Mbai here, Commissioner of Customs. Mr. Mbai, witnessing the event today, saying the Gambia finally hosting the summit after many years and months of preparations, how was the feeling like when you were in that hall and seeing the baton being handed over to President Barrow as the chairman of the OIC?
I feel, quite, happy, to also be part of this, history, event, and also for Gambia Gambia, as well as we are hosting this kind of, event, is really something that, every Gambian should be proud of.
I am very happy to be here to support my president and to support this initiative. It's a great pleasure to see the Gambia being identified, to be given the chair among community of nations, and it is our turn. And I think the celebration or the event went on very well, very successful, as small as we are, because people were doubting whether it would happen. But just to tell the people that there were so many postponements in even bigger countries. So Gambia was not a difference.
The Gambia is not as small as it is, because what we have achieved and what we have done is like any other country, sovereign nations. So it is a pride that we as Gambians, under the leadership of His Excellency the President, that we are able to host this for the first time in the history of the country. So it is a real congratulations to His Excellency the President and the Gambian people.
Muslim and Christians in this nation have always had a very good relationship, and we have always celebrated that in the Gambia. So if this country is celebrating such a milestone, it is prudent that the Christians will also be here to celebrate with our brothers and sisters.
The Gambia, this is not the first time Gambia is advocating for peace and stability in not only in our country but in our continent, and including in our region, West Africa. So this is not new, and I believe since the time of Jawara, if you know the history, what former president or late President Jawara have played in terms of maintaining peace and tranquility in the world. So this is something is deeply rooted here in this country.
It's now a pleasure speaking to the Gambia's former Vice President, Eshirinjai Seydima. You are here witnessing the formal opening of the OIC Summit. As a Gambian, how do you feel today?
I feel great and proud. Definitely, it's a pride for the Gambia to host this. It's a pride for His Excellency the President to chair it as well. And it's a pride that we are dealing with critical issues, which I'm sure he has committed himself to achieving and also addressing. I have no doubt by the end of his tenure, all these things would have been addressed, if not all, most of them.
It's a dream come true. You live, Allah endow you with the opportunity and privilege to witness such an important organization. We return most of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today at a time when the world is grappling, most importantly, particularly the Islamic Ummah, with serious divisions, serious conflict, serious internal and regional issues that is killing thousands of our citizens as Muslims. As the President indicated, we must get a concerted effort and resolve to ending those senseless conflicts.
Where you heard reactions of some of the dignitaries that were at the opening ceremony, people from, different political parties, of course, as well as, senior government officials. Doc, Ambassador, you have heard from them. Doc, let me now bring you in here. What was the toughest part for you in this whole organization as Minister of Information?
Well, I think before I answer that question, I want to take you back and our viewers down to history lane and what we can learn from there. In February 1974, the former president, Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara, went to Lahore, Pakistan, to make a case for Gambia's membership of the OIC. This was in February 1974. And in his final speech, he made a very interesting statement that Islam has potential for influence in the world. And he described Lahore as this great, beautiful city with its long history and a strong Islamic tradition. 50 years down the line, 2024, we hosted the summit at the Sir Jawara Kairaba International Conference Center. That is something that every government should be proud of. Now, coming to your question, the biggest challenge was mobilizing. Because for me, when I assumed the role as minister,
especially Minister of Information, you are
yes,
dealing with information, the media.
The first thing I asked GRTS management, my first meeting was, how prepared are you for the summit? Because I knew that these kings and queens and presidents are not coming here for the roads. They've got beautiful roads from where they're coming from. They've got beautiful hotels. They've got nice food. They've got nice cars. They're coming here for the visibility. They want to be seen at the world stage. Their voices want to be heard. They have national interest issues that they want to project to the world, to the OIC, and the only way they can do that is through a proper media coverage. And that was my biggest challenge. And I asked GRTS, how prepared are you? And they were like, well, we are struggling. And then when I engaged CEO, he said, consider it done. We are going to support GRTS. We are going to ensure that GRTS takes the lead in the media coverage. Together, we worked together. It was a very difficult period. We brought in all the stakeholders internally to say, what do we have? What can we do? How do we pull the resources? QTV, Paradise, Africa, Star TV, all the local media house, together with GRTS. And also we got support also from RTS Senegal to give us technical back support to ensure that everything is intact. I think that was a very difficult period because I was dealing with technicians who speak a very different language than what I speak, and trying to understand what they were saying and putting things together, make sure they come together and pull the resources was quite a difficult task. But thank God, the media coverage went well. GRTS took the lead. Everyone else took feed from GRTS, including Al Jazeera, Qatari, even the CGTN were the Chinese. They came from Kenya. You know, their Africa station is in Kenya. Yeah. They came. Top-level officials from CGTN came to cover the event in Chinese TV.
And TRT also.
And TRT from Turkey were here. And all these had to rely on GRTS, Al Jazeera, on GRTS for feed. So everything you see.
So it was more like a collaborative effort. Yeah. I mean, all the TV stations were collaborating.
See, global events like this need global partnerships to make it happen. That is why when I saw people making, oh, artist is coming, they are going to go, I was laughing because they don't know what they're talking about.
But overall, I mean, the lead role played by the local media, how significant was that?
Well, as Doctor said, I think, you know, we are not an island in the world. I mean, we work collaboratively, but as he rightly said, we made sure that, you know, our national, how do you call it, our national broadcaster becomes the backbone on which all others ride. And as you can see, even within the conference hall itself, it wasn't messy like you see in other places. You know, the live feed was, you know, provided, and there was so much collaboration. That collaboration also found its roots within our media subcommittee. Because remember, we have almost 10 subcommittees under the Secretariat. The media subcommittee is quite a broad one, which brings together players from both the independent media and, of course, the government media. So, you know, another beautiful lesson that we learned from this is that we believe as a country we need to pull our resources together. And when we do that, we become stronger. And we are able to pull off something that, you know, we never imagined it could be done. Initially, people are thinking about all sorts of possibilities bringing, but, you know, with a little bit of imagination and collaboration, you know, the whole thing became a big success.
And Doctor, like you said, there was that, I mean, collaboration among the media houses, and that we must admit, I mean, the role played by the local media, of course, including QTV. I mean, they really did wonders as far as the coverage of the summit is concerned. I mean, going beyond our limit just to make sure we provide that coverage. I mean, we were even getting images that were exclusive to QTV because of the, you know, the facility that we have, and that we must admit. And now, like you said, I mean, the summit is over. I mean, a lot of resources were spent on the summit. I mean, we saw new vehicles were procured by a Gambian. How much did that intervention really help in serving the day?
Well, thank you very much.
Mobility was key. I mean, you always emphasize that security and
absolutely, you know. Absolutely. You see, another big lesson that we have to learn from this OIC is that we have to build capacities locally. Of course, we had assistance from sister countries, but the intervention by a Gambian entrepreneur created a watershed moment in the whole place. Mohamed Jah came in at a very critical moment. We had, like I said, we had our plan Bs, and one of them was we would rent cars. We had a friendly country, Mauritania, which gave us 100 vehicles.
For free.
For free. But crucially, as I said, the OIC was not just for one day. It was supposed to build capacities. We have enhanced that by training people. But this particular intervention has now given the country its own stock of high-value cars. And this I expected to support not only the executive, but also for the next 3 years and even beyond, it's supposed to be able to help the conferencing capacity of this country. Currently, there has been discussions, no final decisions have been taken yet, but at the end of the day, this would have actually satisfied a huge deficit in terms of our conferencing capabilities, and in terms of providing the kind of comfort that our visitors, VVIPs especially, require. We have a VVIP, we have a state-of-the-art conference center. Now we have, a whole, fleet of luxurious cars that can provide the added, much-needed support to give our visitors the comfort and the pleasure that they require us.
And Doctor, managing these vehicles, yes, the summit is over. Many are asking what next with these vehicles. Are we going to see them scattered everywhere in town and everyone bring your own vehicle or what?
No, I think this government is a very responsible government. Okay. And one of the things this government focuses on is to ensure that public resources are managed effectively. I think in line with that policy, government will ensure that these vehicles are managed properly. And remember now, Gambia is, like he said, has taken the lead as having one of the most beautiful conference structures in the sub-region. I was going back and forth at the airport receiving guests, and even the presidents who came from the African sub-region were amazed by the kind of conferencing capacity we have. We've taken the lead. Just look at the VVIP. Go there, have a look at the VVIP structure. It's world class. You wouldn't think that this is in Gambia. From there, you look at the conference center. Just look at how beautiful the conference center is from inside and from outside. That is there as an asset to be used for ECOWAS, EU, even UN, any summit you think of. So these vehicles will be, there'll be a post summit review, and this will be taken as how these vehicles now will be managed to serve future conferences, because we cannot also be buying.
The summit is over, but just today I saw most of them driving around, OIC summit. So
because guests are still going. Yes. I was at the airport till 5 a.m. this morning because the delegation was going last night, and whilst I was even leaving the airport, someone was still going to the airport. I think, but when all the guests have gone, all the delegates have gone, these cars will be parked and a decision will be made. But my thinking and my hunch tells me that it will be managed properly and safe to make sure that there'll be, because Gambia is part of many multilateral organizations. We are part of ECOWAS. The president could be appointed as the chair of ECOWAS very soon. You never know. The African Union, the Commonwealth.
I doubt he will accept it at the moment.
Well,
OIC alone is.
I mean, obviously the opportunities abound. So, and also there could be an emergency issue within the OIC where the president can confirm.
I know we're running out of time, but finally, Ambassador Diba. I mean, now the summit is over. I mean, is your office open to audit, and if yes, are you going to make this audit public? And also, what next for the Secretariat?
Thank you very much. I think this is a very, very important question, Cisse. Let me just inform your listeners that since our formation, we have been funded by Saudi Arabia. But even though those funds were not coming from the National Treasury, we have gone through two very rigorous processes, audit processes. And to the extent that we've been classified as low risk. Now that we have received from the National Treasury, from the public funds, we are in no doubt that the audit would begin anytime soon. Okay. This morning, the doctor and myself were on a press conference, and I threw up this challenge that we are ready as soon as tomorrow morning. There's a knock on our door to say we want to come and audit. We are prepared.
And now what next for the Secretariat? OIC is over?
We are busy. No, we are busier now.
Okay.
We are there for the next 3 years to support the chairmanship of the country. So, in fact, we'll be a lot busier now than before. So, we are still in business, and we are here to support our president. Wonderful. And don't forget that we are created under statute, and the President Barrow is the chairman of our board. As long as he chairs, the OIC is here to support.
And Doctor, your final message to Gambians, so we're running out of time in 30 seconds.
To take the opportunity to thank all those who contributed in one way or the other to the success of this event.
Drivers,
Secretariat, the OIC Ministerial Board, the security, the drivers, the media, the cleaners, even citizens. Citizens were patient. There were a lot of traffic disruptions and diversions.
There was so much interest.
There was so much interest.
Outside the country. Many were following online.
When I went to pick Faki, the AU Commission chairperson from the airport, and we were driving back towards Coastal Road, we saw huge crowds coming out at their own cost, welcoming the leaders, showing how happy they are, welcoming them. So I think Gambians really has demonstrated that we can be divided on political issues, on other issues. When it comes to national interest, we'll come together. And everybody, security, protocol, drivers, secretariat, the cooks, the young people, women, everybody contributed to this. But finally, I think the credit itself, most of it, big one, goes to His Excellency the President for believing in the Gambia, for believing in our people, for believing in our potential, for the dedication. Many people thought we could not do it, and some big countries were even thinking that let's take it from Gambia and do it. We can do it. His Excellency said no. We are going to do it, and we did it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, the Gambia's Information Minister. It was good to have you on the program. And Ambassador Yankuba Diba, who is the CEO of the OIC Secretary Gambia. It was good to have you on the program, gentlemen. Thank you so much. And like you said, I mean, we say a big thank you to the President and the entire organizing committee for really making us proud. I mean, as they will always say, no country is perfect. I mean, but then they said Gambia hosting the summit, I mean, 15th edition, I mean, is something that we should all be proud of. And moving forward, I hope, I mean, Gambia will continue to host more summits in the near future. Well, on behalf of everyone here at QTV, we thank you so much for watching. Do join us next week. Until then, good night.